Oh, my
Well,
goodness.
it's time to convene the meeting. So, did everybody get the blast about the alternate opening and closing? How about you, Ernie? Did you get it?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Well, are you the vice president?
I am.
So, okay, well, Lynn, nice enough to send this around, so we'll give it a shot.
Thank you.
So Ernie, you got your script there?
I do.
Okay, so we're starting now. The hour of labor has arrived, and the work of another day demands our attention. Worthy Vice President, are we ready to begin?
Worthy steward, please prepare for our work.
The steward being Patty Summers, or who is the steward? Anyway, my assistants will open the Bible. Well, I don't think we're going to be doing that. And now worthy chaplain. Is the chaplain here? Skip over
Am I
that.
the chaplain or not?
Okay.
Yeah, you might be the chaplain.
Yeah, you could be the chaplain for tonight.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought I was nominated and elected at the.
I thought
You
you
are,
were too.
you are the chaplain. You
There you
are.
go.
This, I have to put the phone down because I can't hold the book and hold the phone at the same time. So.
And now worthy chaplain.
Well, hold on.
No, I'm just going to do the intro for now. Under the
ahead.
great master of the universe, let us stand and bow in prayer.
I don't understand.
Okay. Almighty Father, maker of heaven and earth and giver of all good, we return our heartfelt thanks. We are permitted again to meet each other here for work in our glorious cause. Give us patience and wisdom in our counsels as a body, that our work may be good and acceptable in your sight, and that our labors may be blessed with the liberal harvest. And when we are called to lay down our implements on earth, may we enter the paradise not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, and receive that welcome greeted, well done, good and faithful servants. We beseech you to bless the officers and members of this Grange and all connected with the order, from the highest to the lowest degree, and grant them prosperity. We ask all in your holy name. Amen.
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 No, I don't think is our worthy lecturer here?
There's no,
This could be trouble.
well, there's no song.
Okay, well, so Michael, next time, this is where you'll come in.
Okay.
We'll do this song. Michael, God bless him, has got some music from the Grange headquarters.
Oh, great.
He's going to be ready next month. So, okay. So patrons, I am about to open the Grange. Please assist with a salutation that signifies a good patron places faith in God,
Faith in God, nurtures hope.
dispenses charity, and is noted for fidelity. I didn't do the routine there, but I'll get it down next time. Patrons in faith and hope and charity and with fidelity, this Grange meeting is now open. Worthy Vice President, please proclaim it accordingly. Ernie?
Ernie
Was it-
disappeared.
Uh-oh. Well, Ed, why don't you be the, you got the script there?
I don't, because I don't have a role.
I
I
have it.
have it.
Okay,
Who's
good.
got it?
Open the Grange, somebody.
I have it.
Lisa,
ahead.
Sister Lisa.
By command of the worthy president, I proclaim this Grange opened for promoting the welfare of our country and of mankind, for advancing the interests, elevating the characters, and increasing the influence of all its members, by properly transacting our business and by exemplifying our principles in faith, in hope, in charity, and with fidelity.
Well done. Presentation of the flag is optional. Salute to the flag. We don't have one, but so worthy gatekeeper, which is Larry, who sadly is not here. How is Larry? Does anybody know? Ed, do you know anything about Larry
I
Dahlgren?
haven't seen Larry. No, I haven't.
Oh dear, well, he's,
Hi, I saw Larry very recently. He's feeling a lot better.
Good.
Good.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
I don't think he does Zooming, Larry, for some
he
reason.
does not.
No, they
Nope.
don't have this stuff at home.
They
No.
have a little, what's that, Elaine, I think she could probably handle it for him. Okay, worthy gatekeeper, do we have any guests to be introduced? I don't think so. I think the Skinner contingent is certainly many decades as members. Okay. So that's where we are in order now. I'm getting a little worried. I don't see Priscilla here. And so I don't see Kyla Bennett.
Right.
So this is not good.
I'm gonna go call Priscilla.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somebody call Priscilla.
I'll go call Priscilla.
We have the ECAT logo here, so that's something.
That's
Yeah,
Priscilla.
they're recording our cocktail hour too. I think we got to get rid of that. You know what I mean? Just do the minute, just do the meeting.
Yeah, considering we have no cocktails.
Right.
Pretty boring. We don't want to. So Lynn, you calling?
Yes, she is.
Okay. I went back to a flip phone this weekend.
You did?
Oh, all right.
I missed it. I like those flip phones. They're simple. I get my texts on them.
Yeah.
I get app happy on these Androids.
Yeah. My iPad is loaded with apps.
I put them all into a folder, so I don't see any of them. That helps me.
My iPad is loaded with folders that have the apps inside, so it doesn't really work. So,
Yeah. Well, there's a great one called Picture This. Do you know that one?
no.
Well, you go up to a tree or a plant or anything and take a picture of it. It'll tell you.
It'll tell you.
Oh, I've got a Mac version of that. Yep.
Split seconds. Unbelievable.
Wow.
I see Lynn is calling there.
Has
So-
Priscilla showed up yet?
What-
No.
No, she, it went to voicemail.
Name. The names appear up there sometimes when they speak.
So is that Bernice?
Yes,
Yes, right there.
wave.
So how's life in Syracuse? Can she hear me?
You gotta talk a little louder. I got the computer up all the way and her hearing aids are up.
Yeah, how's life in Schenectady?
Syracuse.
Well, I'm Syracuse.
They're asking you how life is out here.
I think it's good. She's smiling.
Yep. Must be.
Life is good. That's good. Well, it's great to see your face. Believe me, this is proof or
I
extended
think
reach.
probably the matriarch of the Grange right now.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
Excuse me, Lynn, did you call Priscilla's landline or did you call her cell?
Herself.
Okay.
Do you have her landline? Do you want me to go find it and call it her landline?
I'm trying to think of what it is. Yeah, it's
You hear this?
238-6577.
One on the roster is 2723121.
But what's the 2381? What's it, 6 what?
On the roster?
Sorry, I was choking. I had to mute myself. 238-6577.
Okay, 6.
Yeah. Well, every other time it's been flawless. I'm sure I'm to blame for this problem, but
Of course you are, Phil.
I guess I'll find out about that soon. Soon enough.
We'll have to get you a sign for your desk that says the buck stops here.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I got a message last night. Did everyone else get it from Kyla Bennett? Did everyone else get that?
Yeah,
What was the message?
Yes. Yes.
It was
She's
just
looking
that she was really looking forward to
Yeah, she was
speaking.
looking forward to it. Yeah.
So it seems strange that,
No, it's because Priscilla had sent.
Well, there's
Here's-
Tyler, so we're
responded.
saved. Priscilla's sort
Okay.
of extra.
So Kyla, welcome to the show. Can she hear me?
I can hear you.
That's good.
Okay, great. Well, we're gonna thank you for coming. We're gonna do a couple of minutes of reports here, and then we'll get to you. Is that all right?
That's fine. Do you want me to leave or?
No,
you
no,
okay?
stay right there. This is
Okay.
not a secret society, but by any means, but you're great to see your face here. So Ed, why don't, let's see, Lynn, why don't we talk about, give us the financials quickly, and then we'll go to Ed for a building report.
Okay, as of the 17th of September, we had $832.70 in our checking account, and in our money market, $11,004.77, which is a total of $11,837.47. It also includes a receivable from the Lions Club for $1,352.63, which is brings it up to about $12,500 in cash. And so that's where we're standing. It's a low point based on what we've had in the past, but we've had a lot of construction. We've had total construction the last eight years of $169,400.
How about that?
That's how much has gone into the building since the thrift store has given us a stream of income.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing, that stream of income. Thank you, Lynn, for that report. So Ed, could you bring us up to date on the building?
Yes, well, as you all know, the Lions reopened the thrift store on Saturdays only. And what we're doing there is on Wednesdays, which was the other day that we were traditionally open, we're doing setup work for the following Saturday. Rather than disinfecting everything that comes in, any new acquisitions are put in a shed on Saturday, brought out on Wednesday. The idea being that things may have died down if there's any COVID on it. We all go in with masks and gloves, sort everything out, and then leave them until the following Saturday. So we're open. There seems to be no problem. It's busy on Saturdays. And that now gives us a revenue stream that we need to begin to look at things. A couple of things we're thinking about. Number one, it's time to do a safety equipment inspection, and I'll be getting on that. We need to have our fire extinguishers recharged and check the batteries on the various alarm systems. Second, the big project, I think, or actually not so big a project that needs to get done soon is the insulation of the attic. We need to clean a little bit out of the attic or have somebody do it for us. I think it would be better to have some professionals clean it out and then put the insulation down, which would save us some money over the years. And then the other project that we're contemplating on the inside is getting an estimate on the bathroom project to make a handicap accessible bathroom. We're not there yet, but with the revenue flow and better times coming back, we may be able to get a loan from the state Grange.
That would be good.
That's my report.
That's Priscilla.
Thank you for that. Lisa, our secretary's report.
Well, as I mentioned the last meeting, I just need to know, I think Lynn had expressed interest in it, the 148th annual virtual state session this year is going to be October 31st. And it looks like they open at 10, the opening in the 6th degree opens at 10 a.m. and it looks like everything's basically going to be done. I would probably guess, mid-afternoon, 3 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock. Does that sound right, Lynn?
Yeah, so it opens like at 1:15 until the end, which could be 3.
Right, yeah.
Just the business. So we do have to vote on a delegates. So the master and me, we have to vote so I can, you have the documents you send in, right? Because you have to put the seal on it, and there's a
Right. Right.
deadline on that too. So does Bill want to go into the Zoom meeting as the master?
Yeah, no, I do.
Okay, so if you,
I wanna
yeah,
be there.
so if we could vote on those, the two of us, and then send that form in.
Let's do,
Yeah.
should we do that vote right now?
The form has to be sent in by October 1. We
I
should
would
vote.
think,
Let's vote
I
now.
would think it's under new business and not right now.
True. But we won't forget it.
Okay, new business.
The only other thing I wanted to tell everybody was that I made a list of the Golden Sheet members. I went through all the roster and figured out everyone's years as best I could before I got a hold of the state secretary, Deborah Goodrich. I sent her the names of everybody on the list that I had that were having some sort of an anniversary. There was one person that had 25 years and everyone else was 40 plus years, 50, 60, 70. So she's going to confirm all of those anniversary dates. I told her we were thinking about having and planning a award evening at the Grange next year. The one thing I just want everybody to know is for anyone like thinking about they're going to be receiving some certain year, like a 50-year award, they will not send a certificate 90, except it has to be within 90 days. In other words, 90 days has to go by. Say you had a anniversary in March. They will not send it before 98 days before your anniversary. So like if you entered the Grange in December and we had the award ceremony in August, you wouldn't be able to receive an award because it's more than 90 days.
Wow.
So that's the only thing that I'll have to figure out once she gets back to me with the dates of when everybody joined the Grange.
Okay.
So that's all I have to report on that. But just so everyone knows, it is going forward and I'm figuring all that stuff out. And when I get everyone's date, the exact date, then I'll let everyone know.
I'd like to thank you for doing all that. I did volunteer to help if I couldn't anyway.
Okay, well, I'm still waiting to hear back. So, I'll report on that, I guess, probably next month.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a wonderful contribution. Get all that up to date and looking sharp, and that new formatting of the roster too. Definitely is excellent.
I think it's done. I have not heard from anybody else for quite a while, so I think we're done. So I'll send it out. I will send it out to everybody now that it's sort of done. The only thing I was kind of waiting too, because I know the wording is going to be changed as far as the officers, like will not be called worthy master and so forth and so on. So I was kind of waiting, should I update that first or send it out and then send it out again? So
Lisa,
what do you want, Bill? Do you want me to wait until we get?
no, I have an opinion, Lisa. The book that I used to make these copies, they had you had the possibility of saying president. On this heavily all edited order of program, it says right in it, master/vice president. So it has been allowable to say vice president or president for at least since 2013. But now when they have this vote, they're going to eliminate the master.
Right.
So you can go forward and talk president and vice president.
Yeah, there's no options anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, but it hasn't been voted on, but it wasn't
Okay.
before.
Okay.
So if
Anything?
I wait, if they're going to vote at the state session, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Right,
And
so if I wait,
Yes.
a little bit longer, I don't really think it's a big deal. I'll just wait till they vote and then I'll send it out.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to add something if you don't mind. In the State Grange News that for this month, before you can get your credentials, all reports need to be submitted to the state secretary by September 28th. So the secretary's report and any other reports that have to be passed on to the State Grange.
No,
we
that's-
I did see that. Yeah, I saw that on one of my papers. Yes.
This is the quarterly, the regular quarterly reports you're talking about?
I think
I
it was,
believe so.
I think it's an annual bill. I did see what Alan's talking about. I mean, I'd have to like search through my papers, but I did see that. I want to
I
say, I
just
thought it
want to
was-
make sure that we're going to get our credentials. That's why I brought this up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we
Good.
get, we do submit our quarterlies, and a week ago, I did file our 990N. So we're up to date on that. That's the big, that's the big part of the Grange is losing their tax exempt status, is not doing this in 990Ns. If you don't do it for 3 years, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, so we're up to date, thanks to you.
Right, so last time I did it was August of last year, and now I did it in September. In a couple of weeks, because our year ends in September 30th, I will do the following year's 990N. And so that has become crucial now. The state wants to know if you've done your annual report to the government. And so we're up to date on that.
Nice, nice.
okay. Yeah, it's, I can read. Do you want me to, do you want to hear what they wrote on, I found it on the, what they sent me. Does anybody want to hear it or?
About a little bit quick about what prohibitions.
Well, for what Alan's talk about the credential registration.
Yeah.
It says that all delegates must pre-register for this year's annual state session. Completed credentials are to be mailed to the state secretary. And then it just says pre-registration forms and credentials must be received by October 1. There will be no substitution of delegates once the credentials are resolved by the state secretary. Then it says the quarterly reports and dues payments. The Granges must have submitted all reports and annual reports to the Granges and paid all applicable dues through June 30th, 2020.
Yeah, we're good. We're always doing them on time.
Yeah, okay.
Other conventions, when we've had them in person, that you could register as a delegate at the desk. We've had to do that. We've come to the desk and realized we've had to have our slip with us. So the big thing is this year they're saying to you, you can't do that. You absolutely have to have everything right by the 1st of October. So that's what there's,
Okay.
there was more leeway when you're meeting in person.
Okay.
Good, good. And I would just quickly say, we're getting back into the tower garden business. Ed and I have gonna deliver the tower garden to Lisa. And she's volunteered to get that back in action. And
Okay, I'm a rookie. What's the tower garden?
what is a tower garden? Tower garden is what, at about 5 feet tall, something like that?
More than about 6 feet tall. Yep.
6 feet tall, and it's a cylinder, and there are openings. And there are grow lights, and basically you grow tomatoes or whatever in this cylinder, and there's these holes as it goes up, pops out. So
Okay.
we bought 3 of them in a real spending splurge about 8 years ago. And it's been sort of a disappointment, but we're.
Yeah, we should add that we bought 3 to hand out to the elementary school so that the kids could practice some agriculture. And one of them got substantial use and the other 2 did not.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we're very excited about this because this will give us something to post on our Facebook page. So
Right, and I'd like to talk to somebody at some point about, if this does well, about donating fresh produce to the food pantry,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm looking at the Tower Garden, my Google search. And so if you really want to know, go to Google search and you'll see search on Tower Gardens, and it's pretty impressive. It's a whole big concept, but we got to go one step at a time. But anyway, we got to get on. So that's the old business. Is there any new business to come before the meeting before we introduce our speaker?
Yes, I think there is new business. We need to nominate our delegates to go to the state convention.
Worthy President, I nominate, do we do them separately or both of them together?
Do them together, I think. Alan.
All right, well, worthy president, I nominate yourself, William Ames, and Lynn Martin to be our 2 delegates to state session this year.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. We'll
Thank you.
do a good job for you. So,
Okay, still on the new business.
Yeah.
You've already finished that one. I'd like to, as chaplain, even though I wasn't planning on this, I'd like to mention that Scott DeWare passed away since our last meeting, and Leslie Skinner passed away since our last meeting. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. And I think we should have a moment of silence for these two past Grange members that we have lost.
absolutely. Thank you. Let's give them 20 seconds of silence. Very appropriate. Great. Thank you, Alan, for that. Scott was
You're welcome.
Scott was a wonderful member. He's got his 3 daughters in, and he and Melanie, who was his wife, sadly she passed on, but she was a member of the Grange and instrumental in our early days that were wild and crazy, but it all ended well. So we remember them. And Leslie Skinner, I didn't have the pleasure, but I guess Alan, you did, right? Do you want to speak a second about him?
I really didn't know him, but he was involved with antique cars and stuff. And when my sister Patty, the state Flora, got married, he was the driver that drove them either to the wedding or from the wedding. I can't remember exactly which.
Yeah.
So again, you know, my sister, when Lisa sent out the message that Leslie passed away, I contacted my sister, and she was a little upset because way back, and I'm going way back, let's say they were friends and not just Grange members together. So
There's a lot of great friendships in the Grange. And we'll hope the daughters, we'll maybe give those daughters a scholarship for their dues, so stay as members if they're up for it. So
that's a good idea.
is there any other new business before we get to the speaker? Okay, so I think before I introduce Priscilla, it'd be good if we all muted ourselves, except those when you want to speak. But if you could mute yourselves, that will get the ambient noise to a minimum here. So Priscilla, over to you. So is everybody gonna, Harry, you gonna mute yourself there?
Well, I think you're picking on me.
Well, that'd be good. So I'm gonna mute myself. Okay, Priscilla, you're on. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, I'm trying to, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I had my iPad on. There, I should be leaving. Good. Okay. Kyla, are you there?
I am.
There she is. Okay. Should I start, Bill? Okay, I can't hear Bill. What have I done?
He muted himself, Priscilla.
No, I'm unmuted. So go ahead, by all means. Priscilla,
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I can't hear anybody else. Kyla, can you speak?
Yes, can you hear me, Priscilla?
Okay, I can't hear you, Kyla.
Oh,
Well, everybody else can. Everybody else can
Okay,
hear
let me
Priscilla.
just
Yeah,
see.
Kyla?
why I can't do that. I just switched to my laptop. I had my iPad on before. No,
So what's the problem, Priscilla? You
Okay.
can't hear anybody?
where is I can't see my,
Well, maybe I can introduce Kyla.
I don't see the sound, but you can hear me, right?
Yeah, so just go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to, obviously my computer isn't working properly for me to hear you. So I am going to go back to my iPad, if that's okay with everybody.
Can I make a suggestion? If that's not
Oh,
going
boy.
to be
I'm
quick,
not a
that
techie.
Bill, you go ahead. I mean, poor Carla has been hanging on this phone call as it is.
I think that's right.
Okay.
So let's go ahead, Bill, and you
Priscilla?
just do it.
So Priscilla, can you hear anything now? So Kyla, welcome to the show. You've been a loyal and a wonderful presenter for.
Okay.
Okay, Priscilla, I think we're on.
I did it.
You gotta shut off your.
it.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
What are the Skinners
I don't
think?
know Okay. Where is everybody?
We're all here.
I don't see anybody's photo. Okay, everybody come on in. It's not,
Yeah, but you know what, Priscilla, it doesn't matter. Let's, poor Kyla's been hanging on here. I think we gotta just move it up.
oh, she's my friend. She'll be patient. Kyla, where are you?
I'm right here, Priscilla.
Okay, because you're not on my.
We'll just introduce her and we can get on with it.
Okay. All right.
You can figure it out as we go along.
Is Jason here?
Yeah, Jason is here. Yep. PCAT.
Okay. Great. Okay, welcome to the Easton Grange. Today is Monday, September 21st, 2020. We are in the midst of a pandemic and therefore we are Zooming our meeting, which is the third Monday of every month except January and February. Hopefully we will resume our meetings at the Oaks Ames Memorial Hall when we all get a vaccine. So until then, we are Zooming and we hope that you enjoy tonight's presentation. Again, we have the esteemed Dr. Kyla Bennett with us. She's an environmental lawyer as well as a biologist. And tonight we're going to hear about toxins in Easton's air and water. And she might add a few more toxins to the mix. So Kyla, we welcome you. Again, you are such a valued presenter. We have enjoyed you in the past. We have learned so much, and I'm sure we will not be disappointed this evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm actually surprised that you're having me again after last time, because that was right before I went into the hospital. I can't even remember what I said to you. So as Priscilla said, tonight we're going to be talking about toxins in Easton's air and water. I'm going to try to share my screen and see if this works. Here we go. Okay, so can everyone see that?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so toxins in our water and air and what we can do here in Easton to minimize our risk. Before we get into Easton specifically, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on where most people in the United States get their drinking water from. And this information comes from waterlogic.com, which is a great little website that explains water usage in the US. The vast majority of people in the US actually get their water from surface water, from reservoirs. So 64% of people in the US get their water from reservoirs. They fill up with rain and snow, they accumulate in rivers, streams, and lakes, and then they get pumped to water treatment centers and distributed to homes. So the MWRA, which serves Boston and a lot of surrounding communities, they actually get their water from two reservoirs, the Quabbin Reservoir and Wachusett. It used to just be Quabbin, now they blend the two. So most of Boston, general Boston area, do take their water from surface water. The remainder of municipalities and cities in the country, about 36%, get their water from groundwater. So this water obviously also comes from precipitation, from rain and snow, but it seeps into the ground and it's stored in underground aquifers. So it's kind of like a reservoir that's underground. And then it's either accessed through a spring or it's pumped out of the ground with a well. So here's just a little picture. You can see the surface water, that would be a reservoir, and the groundwater is below the surface water, and Easton gets all of its water from groundwater. So specifically, where does Easton get its water? We get it from the Canoe River Aquifer, which is a sole source aquifer. They're very important and very subject to pollution. You have to be very careful because that means at least 50% of the drinking water is consumed in the area overlaying the aquifer. We also get ours from Mulberry Brook Aquifer, Queesit Brook Aquifer, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in a while. And we also have a potential well site in the Hockomock Swamp. And the Hockomock Swamp is a fabulous 17,000 acre area of critical environmental concern, partially in Easton. If you haven't been there, someday if the pandemic is ever over, I will take you. So Easton gets its water from 7 wells. The wells pump between 325 and 1,000 gallons per minute year round. That's a lot of water. We have 168 miles of water mains. We just had one break a couple days ago. If you live in Southeastern, you may have noticed that your water is brown because one of the water mains broke, which is a problem. A lot of the pipes around in the Boston area, you know, Boston is a really old city, and some of the pipes are clay, not in Easton. Easton doesn't have clay pipes, but in the Boston area, there are clay pipes that get crushed easily, and it's kind of a disaster. But all of our water is from aquifers, and what we do is we blend the water from all the wells. So even though we have 7 wells distributed throughout the town, all of that water is brought into one place and blended together. We're currently undergoing a drought, and this is a map. This is a great website called US Drought Monitor, and it's for the entire country, but you can focus in, you can see this one is focused in on New England, and you can see that right now we are in an extreme drought here in Easton. It's very, very bad. The Merrimack River is at one of the lowest points that it's been in decades, if not longer. We're on the verge of an exceptional drought, which is really dangerous. And one of the reasons, I mean, if you look at out west in California, Seattle, Oregon, all those fires, it's from the drought combined with the hotter temperatures, all from climate change. What's interesting is I've lived in Easton for 30 years. I know some of you have lived here a lot longer, but this is one of the only times in the past 30 years that we're under a fire warning right now. So I actually get notifications on my phone saying, you know, be careful, it's dry, it's gusty, everything's like a tinderbox, and we're under a red flag warning. So what Easton does when we're under this kind of water stress is we're in phase 3 water restrictions, and they reduce lawn watering to only Mondays and Tuesdays. So even numbered houses can water on Monday from 5 to 8 a.m., odd numbered houses on Tuesdays from 5 to 8. Normally, everybody can water 2 days a week, and you can water both morning and evening. But unfortunately, many people don't listen to that water advisory. The reason this is all important, why I'm talking about the drought, is because as water well levels continue to drop during the drought, levels of contamination in the groundwater become more concentrated. And one of the really frustrating things in Easton, I don't know how many of you remember when, I don't even remember what year it is, when Doug King wanted to build Queesit on the Pond, and he wanted to put in, which I was fine with that, but the wastewater treatment plant that they built there is very, very close to one of our largest and most productive wells. And it was in an aquifer protection district. And the town voted to remove that designation, which doesn't mean that it's less deserving of protection. It just allowed Mr. King to put in this wastewater treatment plant. When it gets to be, when we have water levels that are as low as they are now, the Queesit Brook actually flows backwards from the extreme pumping of water. And so the things that are coming out of the wastewater treatment plant are getting drawn into our well. Also, Easton allows private wells. And if you think about an aquifer, think of it as an underground reservoir, and our wells are like straws. So it's like one of those big drinks that you get in the fancy Asian restaurants, you know, those big, what do they call them? Scorpions or whatever. And everyone has, you know, there are 8 people, not these days, not with COVID, but back in the day, you'd have 8 straws and everybody would be sucking from this huge drink. That's what our aquifers are like. Each of our wells is a straw. And every time a private landowner puts in their own well, then they are also sucking water from the same aquifer that the municipality is taking water from. So, but Easton allows it, and people are allowed, if they have drilled their own well, they are allowed to water 7 days a week. This is a problem because this reduces the amount of water we have for the rest of us. So what kind of water contamination can Easton have? I'm not saying that we do have all of these things, but we can. This is what any water system can have. One type of contaminants are microbial, so viruses and bacteria, including the virus that causes COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2. We can have inorganic contaminants, which are salts and metals, things like lead and copper. We can have pesticides and herbicides, which I'm going to talk more about in a little while. Those can be very, very dangerous. We can have VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds like benzene, formaldehyde, toluene. These are usually things from, like, for example, the foundry had a lot of this stuff when they were operating as a foundry. It's usually associated with industrial facilities. We can have radioactive materials, and it's usually natural radioactivity. It's not like we have any nuclear power plants here, although they can also be in some medical waste and things like that. And then another big source of contaminants are PPCPs, pharmaceuticals and personal care products. So every time you take a drug, whether it's Tylenol or Valium or Viagra or an epilepsy drug or a heart drug, your body does not absorb all of that. And when you go to the bathroom and urinate or defecate, a lot of the drug comes out in your waste. So for example, with a common antibiotic, Keflex, your body only absorbs about 40% of it, and 60% of it goes out in your waste. That gets into the water. It's not taken out by our wastewater treatment plants. So every time you turn on your tap and have something to drink, you're drinking everyone else's drugs and caffeine. So where do these contaminants come from? As I mentioned, they come from our 2 wastewater treatment plants is one area. They come from our septic systems, and they come from stormwater runoff. So for example, when people put pesticides on their lawn and it rains, it washes off into the drains, washes down into the streams, and gets into our wells. The reason I fought so hard against both of our wastewater treatment plants is not that I think that wastewater treatment plants are bad, they're not, but the devil is in the details, and it's where you place that outfall pipe. If the outfall pipe is too close to where your wells are, you are asking for trouble. And that's precisely what happened here in Easton. And just so I can remind everybody, a lot of people told me after the Queesit on the Pond vote that they voted for it because Mr. King promised a Whole Foods and Trader Joe's in Easton, or Trader Joe's in Easton. I hope you're all enjoying it. It's not here, it was never going to come, but that's why people voted for this, and we didn't get it. You can drive around in the summer and you see these little signs on everybody's lawn. And you'll notice these cute little yellow signs with a cute little cartoon kids and a dog, and it's saying pesticide application keep off. And the reason they're telling people to keep off is this stuff is toxic. It's really toxic. Pesticides can cause cancer, developmental delays, all sorts of problems, neurological symptoms, and especially in children or people like farm workers. There's no control over what people are allowed to put on their lawns. And in my neighborhood of 37 houses, I would say at least half of them have these signs on them in the summertime. And all of this stuff washes off whenever people water their lawn and whenever it rains, and it gets into our drinking water. In addition to all these contaminants that I just talked about, there's a new contaminant of concern called Pfas, which stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. They're called forever chemicals. I don't know how many of you saw the movie Dark Waters with Mark Ruffalo. If you haven't seen it, I think it's on Netflix and you should really watch it. It's a docudrama. It's a true story, but it's a really well done movie. It's very entertaining and sad. I actually went with a bunch of Easton people when it came out in the theaters because Easton is contaminated. Our wells are contaminated with PFAS. They're called forever chemicals because they've got this carbon-fluorine bond, which is one of the strongest man-made bonds. It's almost impossible to break that bond and almost impossible for this stuff to get broken down. PFAS are ubiquitous. They are made as stain-resistant material. They are water-resistant material. So every non-stick pan that you have, Teflon is a PFAS. Every non-stick pan you have, whether it's a baking pan or a frying pan, that's got some kind of PFAS in it, and it sloughs off every time you cook an egg or whatever you cook in it and you're eating it. So it's found in pots and pans. It's found in waterproof or stain-resistant clothing. It's found in carpets, takeout food containers. A lot of couches and other upholstery are artificial turf fields. Some pesticides have it, and some pharmaceuticals and personal care products have it. Those of you who went to town meeting 2 years ago may have seen me get up and get very angry about the artificial turf field because I was afraid it had PFAS in it. And sure enough, we tested. The results came about 3 weeks after the town voted to put the artificial turf field in. It's filled with PFAS. It's running off and getting into our wells. There are more than 5,000 PFAS out there. We are only able to test for 36. The companies that manufacture these chemicals, they're companies like DuPont and 3M, every time a town or a city or a state bans a particular PFAS, they just change the formula and make a new one. We don't even know the names of them. We don't know the chemical structure because it's considered proprietary, so we can't test for them. Health effects of PFAS include cancer, immune suppression, developmental delays, high cholesterol, infertility, all sorts of awful things. Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection is now regulating PFAS, thank goodness, because this EPA has refused to regulate it. The EPA has what they call a lifetime health advisory for two of them, the first two I have here, which are the oldest, PFOS and PFOA, but it's not a binding, it's not a regulation per se. It's just like, hey, you guys shouldn't drink too much of this, so anybody can violate it. But Mass DEP is now regulating 6 of these, and I've listed the 6 PFAS that Mass DEP is regulating. And they have a standard right now, a regulation for the amount of PFAS that can be in soil and the amount of PFAS that can be in groundwater. And coming in October, there will be a 20 part per trillion for standard regulation for all 6 of these. So in other words, if you have more than 20 parts per trillion of these 6, you have to filter it out. You're gonna get fined. So what does Easton have? Well, here are our 7 wells. These are in parts per trillion. Now remember, the Mass DEP limit is 20 parts per trillion. Look at well number 1 there is 42.5. It went up to 51.1. And remember what I said earlier, whenever there's a drought, these contaminants get more concentrated. So right now they're really bad. Well, number 4 was above the 20 part per trillion as well. But remember what I said also, they blend the water for all 7 of these wells. So the blended result, the last time Easton checked, was 22 parts per trillion, which is higher than the Mass DEP standard, which means that Easton is going to have to build a filtration plant. It's going to cost us approximately $14 million, something we can ill afford. However, it's so dangerous that the town has agreed to give a rebate to anyone who wants to put in a household filter at your sink. They will give you $75 back if you get a filter that's certified to remove PFAS. This is a map that somebody in Sharon actually made of Easton. You can see those little white squares or rectangles are wells with the black writing. I don't know if you can see them well, but it's wells 1 through 7. One of them is well 4, I think, is not named there. So we skipped number 4. Formerly number 4 is well number 8. And you can see the parts per trillion of PFAS in each of those. Those 2 red writing rectangles are the 2 artificial turf fields that we have in Easton, one at Stonehill and one at Oliver Ames High School. And look where our wells are, look where those artificial turf fields are, and look how much higher the PFAS is in those wells that are closest to the artificial turf fields. So everyone told me I was crazy at town meeting when I didn't want to put the artificial turf field in. Now we have to pay $14 million to fix this problem. You can see well number 6 is the only one that has, and it's all the way down in Southeastern near the Hockomock, that has no PFAS in it. So what can Easton do about our water? When I first moved here 30 years ago, one of the reasons my husband and I moved here was because Easton had really good water. It's not awful aside from the PFAS, but it's getting worse. And one of the reasons it's getting worse is because we put our wastewater treatment plants too close to our wells. We're going to need a filtration system. But what Easton people have to do when they go to town meeting is to start listening to the scientists, not the hired guns that the developers have getting up there, but the people who know what they're talking about. We need to get a filter for PFAS, which is going to be, as I said, about 14 million. You guys also should all get filtration systems for your houses, and I can send you all a list if you want of the filters that work. One of the other things that we should really do in Easton is ban pesticides. There are some towns who have done it. There are, in fact, I just gave to the select board and the Board of Health, I gave them a model regulation to stop pesticides, aerial spraying and truck spraying in Easton. You know that we're in ground zero for EEE, Eastern equine encephalitis, which is an awful, deadly disease, but extremely rare, that's carried by mosquitoes. This year, there were 3 cases in the state of Massachusetts. Last year, there were 12. It's very frightening. I'm not trying to minimize this disease, but last summer, the state of Massachusetts aerially sprayed pesticides over 2.2 million acres of this state. Those pesticides are getting in our water. It's not good for us, and it doesn't work for killing the mosquitoes. In fact, the state sprayed pesticides aerially 6 times last summer. 3 of those times, half of the times, to a tune of $2.2 million, the efficacy was 0%. In other words, they killed 0 mosquitoes that carried EEE. So why are we doing it? I don't know. But the other thing is that people have those Mosquito Joes or Mosquito Mary, those private pesticide companies that come and spray your lawn. They don't work. They don't protect you. The thing that's going to protect you is if you spray repellent on yourself and if you're cautious about fixing holes in your screens. Aerially spraying or ground spraying indiscriminately only serves to kill our pollinators and to harm us. We should also ban lawn watering. I know people hate that. They want their emerald green lawns, but there are grass seeds out there that can withstand droughts and stay green for much longer. At the very least, the town of Easton should enforce those bans. I will tell you, I was a Karen this summer if you know what that means. I was one of those people that called the water department and said, hey, here's a list of all the people who are watering 7 days a week, even though we're in a phase 3 water restriction. And they did nothing. Now, I don't know if it's because they don't have the resources to do anything, or maybe they did go out and warn people and it's a slap on the wrist and nobody cares because so what if they have to pay a $50 fine? We really have to enforce these bans because, again, the lower our water table gets, the more contaminated our water becomes. We have to educate the citizens of Easton about PFAS. You know how we have that drug take back program. We have to continue. Our hazardous waste day is great. Our drug take back program is great, where you can go to the police office and you can put your drugs, rather than flushing them down the toilet, you can bring them to the police station and they'll incinerate them or get them incinerated. But we should do that with PFAS. We should make sure that people aren't using Teflon pans, that they're not buying Scotchgard and spraying it all over their boots. There are a lot of options to PFAS. We need to get it out of our water and reduce how much we're ingesting. And I said, listen to the scientists again. That's not a mistake because, damn it, we have to listen to the scientists. We are not listening to the scientists at our own risk. Okay, air, which is a little bit trickier than water. Easton is not an industrial town, but we still have air contaminants. And there are 3 primary sources: cars and trucks, pesticides and herbicides, and fragrance, which is my favorite one. I can't wait to tell you guys about that one. The first one is car and truck exhaust. We have traffic, even now with COVID. Sometimes I have to wait, like turning onto Elm Street turning onto Route 138 from Elm Street. You have to wait forever near the Lions thrift store. Massachusetts does have an idling law where you're not allowed to keep your car running while you're stopped for more than 5 minutes. People violate it all the time. In the wintertime, I can go into CVS or Shaw's or whatever, and people will leave their cars running and go in and shop. It's against the law. We shouldn't allow it. It should be enforced. It's supposed to be enforced by the Board of Health. And we need to figure out a way to do that because it's the only cars or trucks that are allowed to idle are ones that need it for example, buses need it because they need the power of the engine to hit their stop sign and make their lights go. Or the workers who are in the cherry buckets when they're fixing the lines, they need that to move the bucket up and down. So there are some exceptions that are allowed, but generally speaking, people in cars should not be letting their cars idle. Pesticides and herbicides, as I said, it's another big one. They're way overused, and Easton is subjected to aerial spraying of Anvil 1010, which is a combination of 2 things: sumithrin, which is an artificial pyrethroid, and PBO, which is it's a chemical that's a known, the EPA calls it a possible human carcinogen. It's a carcinogen, and they're spraying it all over our town, and it's getting into our water. The mosquito control district also sprays truck-based. The homeowners do, as I said before. It's all getting into our water. It's killing pollinators. And some pesticides do contain PFAS, which is leading to our PFAS problem. Pesticides can cause cancer, immune suppression, reproductive and developmental abnormalities, and behavioral changes. And this particular federal administration is bringing pesticides back that have been banned everywhere else in the world. And they are known to hurt people, and they're bringing them back, and people are using them. I have to give credit to Easton's DPW. I asked them to stop using Roundup, and they did. But they still use a bunch of other pesticides, which we should not be using. There are alternatives. And in fact, one of the frustrating things for me is that when you have a healthy ecosystem, when you have the dragonflies and the damselflies and the birds, mosquito populations are kept in control naturally. But when you spray pesticides, because they're meant to kill insects, they're not just killing mosquitoes when they do, they're also killing the dragonflies and the damselflies, and they're forcing birds out of the area. So the mosquito populations actually explode after you spray pesticides. So it's just kind of a stupid thing to do. And it's really something that we should consider stopping. Like I said, I brought a proposal to the select board to try to get us to opt out of the aerial spraying. We'll see. The state now allows it. There was a new law that we helped, that my company and 14 other groups, environmental groups, got into law that allows towns to try to opt out. And I hope that Easton will actually go through this and make a proposal to the state and say, we don't want to get sprayed anymore. We have better ways of doing it that are much healthier for us. Fragrance, this is my last air contaminant. If you read the ingredients on almost anything in your house, especially your fabric softeners, but perfume, shampoo, cleaning products, fabric softeners, it's going to say fragrance. It's a hidden chemical. There's a loophole in FDA's laws that allows manufacturers to include fragrance as an ingredient without actually listing the chemical. We do not know what these are, but we do know when we test them that some of the things that are in them are phthalates, which are linked to changes in sex hormone levels, the development of genitals, low sperm count. Artificial musks are in there, which are also very bad for you, and a whole host of carcinogens. So whenever you see the word fragrance, you should just replace it with probable carcinogen. And why is that in the air? Mostly because the place where it's the strongest is in fabric softeners and dryer sheets. When I walk my dogs around the block in the middle of the day and somebody has their dryer on and that dryer vent is venting to the outside, I can smell that fabric softener. You can smell it when you walk down the street. You can smell it when you walk on when you smell people's clothes. Cleaning products, laundry detergent, air fresheners, all those air fresheners that people use, especially Febreze, it all has fragrance. I guarantee you, if you get off of this Zoom meeting and go read ingredients of almost anything in your house, it's going to say fragrance. Please try to avoid it. Those fabric softeners, those dryer sheets, they're toxic. And they are really contributing to things like asthma in our children. They're awful to have around when we've got a pandemic that involves the respiratory system. And it's something that really needs to be outlawed. It's going to take a lot to get EPA to outlaw fragrances, but we should try. In the meantime, it's up to individuals to try to just stop buying them. If you stop buying them, it will help Easton's air. So what can Easton do? We can have our own idling regulations, which can be enforced by the police or the Board of Health. That would help. There is a Massachusetts law, like I said, but we can have a municipal law. We should encourage walking and biking instead of driving. We need to improve our sidewalks. For example, I've been hearing about a sidewalk on Lincoln Street for forever. I understand we're under bad financial, oh, I apologize. We're under bad financial straits right now, but we really do need to improve sidewalks. We've been doing a great job with the trails throughout the town. I can now walk from my house, and I'm up by the corner of Bay and Lincoln. I can walk to the library, to the shovel shop, through the woods with trails now. Pesticides and herbicides, we really need to ban them. And fragrances, we need to educate the public. We need to teach people in Easton what these things are, what they're doing to their families, because it's worse in your house, of course. If you're spraying Febreze or got one of those plug-in, fragrances, those things are awful. If you really want to smell nice, use pure essential oils. Those will not harm you the way that these fake fragrances do. There's also a potential of doing something called a chemical trespass suit. So if my neighbor's fabric softener is blowing into my yard all the time, I could probably file a chemical trespass suit against them and saying, your chemicals are trespassing onto my property and you have to stop. I mean, I know that sounds extreme, but again, these things are very, very dangerous for us. So in conclusion, the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. I've always, I love Easton. I've been here for decades. There are some very environmentally minded people. There are some great groups like the Grange. We have a Green Communities Committee. There are a lot of people who care very deeply about this town. And I think we all need to come together and figure out ways that we can make it a safer place to live for our children. I don't know if you guys noticed, but this past month, 2 small children got brain cancer, 1 died. I had a brain tumor. I don't know why I got it. We don't know where people are getting these from, but we need to clean up our environment. And I firmly believe that the town of Easton has the resources, the people resources, and the impetus to do something about doing things like banning pesticides, banning lawn watering, or at least enforcing the laws that we have, getting a filtration system, teaching people about not buying PFAS or not buying fragrances. There's so much that we can do just through public education. And I hope that the Grange can be a part of that. And that is my talk. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Kyla. Yes, I heard you speak about PFASs through the social media, I think it was Facebook, and you recommended water filter systems. And you suggested the one that you have in your home, which is A.O. Smith water filter. And I went to Lowe's, and for $129, I got a 2-filter water filter. The filters have to be changed every 6 months, but it's a very small price and to pay. And I have a spigot which gives me pure water. All the contaminants, 99.9% of is a contaminant-free water. And I am so grateful to you for giving me that information. And tonight, I am grateful to you for informing me about fragrance. I think we all have those spray cans in our bathrooms. But I haven't been using them as much lately. I open the window and let the fresh air take care of any odors. But I didn't know about the softener sheets, which I regularly put in my dryer. So
here's a trick, Priscilla, for those, if you want to get rid of those. One of my friends here in Easton takes squares of cotton fabric. You can go to Joann's and buy, a remnant, or cut up an old t-shirt and soak it, put it in a little jar with white vinegar and some drops of essential oil, whatever you like the smell of, lavender or lemon or whatever you want. And then when you are ready to put your clothes in the dryer, I dry all mine outside unless it's pouring rain because of the electricity usage. But if you're using your dryer, you take a couple of those squares, wring out the vinegar and the scent and throw them in the dryer. And it works just as well as the dryer sheets. It saves you money and there's no artificial fragrances. It works like a charm.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have all sorts of tricks.
But yeah, and I know that you have gotten rid of plastic in your house. I know you told me that you have actually found on the internet all kinds of products that are not stored in plastic, which is amazing. And
well, Seventh Generation now has a whole cleaning line. None of it's plastic. It's all in metal that you return and they refill. And I get my shampoo that way too, and conditioners in a metal container that you return and they refill them and send them back.
Now what's the company?
Seventh Generation. Yes,
I'm familiar with that. Yes.
They have a brand new cleaning line of all metal containers.
Well, I have metal straws now, so
Yay.
I guess on my way.
Good.
Okay, let's hear some other questions from your talk was amazing and so excellent. And I'm so pleased because the viewing audience, the residents in Easton are going to be looking at this and hearing you and being advised, and hopefully there will be some groundswelling of support and some action taken.
I hope so.
And I think we all should tell our leaders on the select board to tune in and see this wonderful presentation.
Well, the select board has been really wonderful that, I bother them all the time with stuff like this. And Dottie and the rest of them have been so open-minded about considering things. So I have to give, our town officials are Connor, the select board, the Board of Health, they're all wonderful. The DPW, the water department. The fact that Easton really is taking this PFAS matter by the horns and really trying to fix it, other towns are refusing to even look into it. Easton's doing a great job, and I'm really, really happy that we have the town officials that we do.
Well, yes, I agree with you totally. And I think what we need to do is get the word out to install an A.O. Smith water filter so that when they, when I take a glass of water from that faucet, I know that there are no contaminants in there, that I'm not risking my health. And by the way, I want to congratulate you on your big comeback. It was such a shock for all of us, and we were so worried about you. A brain tumor, oh my God! And then so you went through so much recovery and your surgery, and then the hospital, and then getting back, and now you're doing 15 miles of brisk walking a day with the dogs.
The doctors told me I had 2 brain surgeries, and the doctors told me that if I had not been in such good shape, I would not have made it. So I'm not going to take that chance again. And I also realized how, as you know, from the moment of silence that we had earlier for your two friends that have passed, life is fragile, and we've got to do what we can, I think, to help, especially the kids in Easton. I really don't want to see anyone else go through what I went through. I really don't want to see it. I think we have to do everything we can to protect the people in our town.
So I have
Yes.
a question, if I could.
Sure.
How that $14 million system, where does that, do we have to do it right away, or? what are the plans?
Yeah, so Mass DEP's law is going to go into effect in October. So yeah, we're going to have to do it pretty soon.
Wow.
Yeah, and Kyler and I, Bill, were among a small handful of people that when Doug King was trying to put that, and did put the wastewater treatment plant close to our well, we were up there fighting and so forth. And I sat next to a group of very senior citizens who Doug King had bussed in, actually, from nursing homes, and people, and they said, oh, we really want this. And I said to them, well, when you have I said, do you take a lot of medications? Oh, yes, 10, 12 pills a day. And I said, well, they all go into the sewer system, which gets into the water. And they said, oh, no, I don't throw them down the toilet. I said, no, your feces does. And they looked at me, but they still voted to give Doug King his wastewater treatment in that particular location.
Right.
That's really what we were all about.
Yep.
Don't near.
Yep.
Yeah. So now we're paying the price.
We are.
And I think and the artificial turf, you and I stood up at town meeting and tried to convince people that this is not the way to go. And look what this artificial turf at Stonehill and at All Rains now has caused and infiltrated the wells. It's just,
The
listen to the scientists.
The town of Sharon actually the Conservation Commission denied the artificial turf field for that very reason. But now it's going up for a vote at town meeting in October. I hope they're able to fight it back, but we'll see.
So the PFAS chemical component in the water is what triggered the expenditure required, right?
Yeah,
So if we hadn't had those high numbers, we wouldn't be forced to do this.
that's correct. And it's not just coming from the artificial turf field, it's also coming from the wastewater treatment plants.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. So Bill, the mantra is listen to the scientists.
There you go. There you go. And Kyle is a great scientist who's our friend, which is a wonderful thing. So Ed, do you have any questions?
No, I do have a comment. I received my monthly copy of Scientific American today. They've been in operation for 175 years, and
Wow.
they just endorsed their first presidential candidate. It was not the incumbent.
I saw that.
So I think you need to start thinking about cutting this out at the top, as well as acting locally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think the other issue, despite the fact that I have all respect for our Board of Selectmen, which is doing an excellent job in many ways, I think the whole issue of development and the fact that our revenue stream is dependent upon new growth every year is just going to make these problems worse and worse. And
I
that's
agree.
something that needs to be addressed.
I agree.
So Lisa, you got any comments or thoughts for Kyla? Lisa Hadley? I don't think so. You're on mute.
Still on mute.
You're on mute.
There you go.
Hello?
Yeah, you got any thoughts for Kyla about her excellent presentation?
No, I was just saying I thoroughly enjoyed it and learned a ton tonight, and
Good.
just thank you for, telling us and bringing a lot of this to light. The people, a lot of people are just walking around like me that don't know these things, I mean, unless you have a reason to research them, you just really don't know. You're just living your life,
Right. Which is why I'd love to do some more public education, and why I really appreciate you guys letting me talk and putting this on ECAT, because I'm hoping we reach some other people. But
Sure.
I think Easton is one of those special towns that should be able to make a difference. I'm hoping. So I'm going to try.
So Michael, you look like you're ready to ask a question or make a comment.
A couple of weeks ago, somebody drove down Bay Road, and as they went, they left jugs of waste oil, I guess. The one they left in front of my house, unfortunately, got hit by a car, and it all blew into the wetlands across the street from my house. But the problem is that there's one day a year toxic waste collection days that the towns do are inadequate. There needs to be year-round possibility to get rid of toxic waste. I picked up the other 2 jugs that hadn't been hit, and it was on the Stoughton side, so I went to Stoughton and tried to get into the DPW, but they wouldn't take them, so I'm stuck. I've got these 2 jugs of questionable stuff, but we really need, there needs to be a real year-round
I agree.
regular way to get rid of toxic
I
material.
agree. I think it's a matter of resources, but I agree with you. That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they could, they do pay a considerable amount of money to the hazardous waste personnel that come from these hazardous waste companies. But certainly, if we had to put up a shed of some kind, large shed so that people could drop off hazardous waste during the year, and then on that they're ready to dispose of them on that annual day. What's wrong with that? Why can't they just have just the way the pills are taken by the police? You can go anytime and deposit they even have a big container where you put them in. So I don't see why the DPWs can't have storage facilities to store some of these hazardous wastes.
Well, I think you have to be careful, because some of them together can become explosive and things like that. So storing them, that's why when you drive up to Hazardous Waste Day, they separate everything very carefully. You drive up and they ask you what you have, and you put it in if you had to store it next to each other, it could form some kind of dangerous situation. But that being said, I think it's worth talking to the DPW about trying to expand it to do it. And it would be nice if we could do it once a month, or at least 4 times a year, once every 3 months or something like that. I know it was canceled this year because of COVID. And that actually reminds me of another thing. When you change your filters, Priscilla, put them, the old one, the used filters, in a Ziploc bag, and bring them to the Hazardous Waste Day, because they are filled with PFAS, and you don't want to throw them in the garbage, because then it's just going to become someone else's problem, leaching from a landfill.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So well done. So any other comments? Lynn, you got any thoughts? That's a no. Okay, so Priscilla, over to you.
Well, I want to thank you again, Kyler. It's always a pleasure. You educate us, you make us think. And now all of us, some of us who are seniors, when we finish this program, we better just get pencil and paper, and start writing these down because we'll forget a lot of it. Or we can go online. This program will be shown on TV, on the cable, but it will also be available at eastoncat.org. And so when you go to eastoncat.org, you can click on the Easton Grange and you can see this program over, because I think it really needs repetition. Okay, so, but in the interim, get paper and pen and start writing down all the things you're going to do from now on.
Check your ingredients.
Great.
Pardon?
Check your ingredients.
Yes.
So thank you, Priscilla, for securing this, Kyla, one more time, and we hope to see her soon again, because it's always interesting and wonderful presenter, sense of humor, a good laugh along the way. It makes a big difference. So I guess, is there any other business come before the meeting today? Okay, well, it's time to close the Grange. Are the labors of the day completed? And was there any here? He would be saying, yes, worthy president. So then I'm going to say, as there is no more work for us today, the steward will see that the implements are properly secured for the night, and the assistant stewards will close the Bible upon the altar. Brothers and sisters, as we are again to separate and mingle with the world, let us not forget the principles of our order. Let us add dignity to labor, and in our dealings with our fellow men and women, of course, be honest, be just, and fear not. We must avoid intemperance in eating, drinking, and language. Also in work and recreation, and whatever we do, strive to do it well. Let us be quiet, peaceful citizens, feeding the hungry, helping the fatherless and the widows, and keeping ourselves unspotted from the world. Worthy lecturer, please announce the closing song. No song today, Priscilla, so you're off the hook. But patrons, I'm about to close the Grange. Please assist with a salutation that signifies that a good patron places faith in God. Let's all watch Ed. He knows how to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Nurtures hope, dispenses charity, and is noted for
Fidelity.
everybody.
Fidelity.
Fidelity. Okay.
So be it.
Please declare the Grange closed. By command of the worthy president, this is the vice president speaking, I proclaim the Grange is closed and lawfully open again in faith and hope and charity and with fidelity. So be it. Everybody now say, so be it. Ready?
So be it.
So be it, everybody.
May
Now
the
you're-
divine master protect, guide, and bless us all now and forevermore.
Amen, everybody.
Amen.
Right? Let's hear it.
Have a good month.
Amen.
Okay.
And
Labors-
get your A.O. Smith 2-filter water filter at Lowe's for $129. You won't be disappointed. Money well spent. It'll keep you from getting a brain tumor. Right, Kyla?
Wow, that's a strong endorsement. Very good. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great month. We'll be in touch. And be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Al.
Bye.
Take care.